back to True Geordie Extra. Today it's Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury, the prediction. And normally when I do these videos, I start off with I know I'm going to predict. I really don't right now. I want to sort of do a little investigation with you lot and figure it out in real time. So we're going to watch Anderson Silva and Tyron Woodley's fights against Jake Paul and see what he does well and what he's open to. Right, when I watch Jake, the thing that I find frustrating in terms of me wanting him to do well is the lack of a good jab. And it's not that he can't jab properly. I've watched him hit pads and hit thunderous jabs, but in a fight, he's really not using his jab in the proper way. And as you see with Anderson Silva here, he's letting it go out there, but it's not with authority, it's not accurate, it's not snapping the head back. And it's one of his biggest weaknesses is that it's all about the right hand with Jake, and a little bit too predictable in that sense. And I think if you're the Fury family and you're trying to come up with a game plan, you're looking at Jake's right hand and going, we just have to avoid that and we can try and pick him apart here because his jab isn't going to be able to compete with ours. You see there, Jake is judgment of distance with that jab. It's just not effective. It's right on the edge, and Anderson's very good at judging distance, to be fair, but you just want more from a jab. One thing I will give Jake is he has a good judgment of danger and he's quite good at getting out of the way of danger. Don't get me wrong, when he's backing away here and Anderson's coming in, I'd like to see him be throwing as well, just to stop Anderson in his tracks a bit there. But Jake's ring IQ for a guy who was very little experience, like people forget, the guy's a child in boxing years, but he gets it. Jake's actually got a very good clinch, and obviously in boxing you don't want to see it, but it's a very good tool for him to use to get his shots off clinch or get himself out of danger when someone's coming in and trying to put it on him. This is where Jake wants this fight to be. He wants it to look a bit more like this with Tommy Fury. Close up, a brawl, swinging that big right hand, and that gives him the best chance possible. And as you'll see, he did a really decent job of landing there. Anderson comes back and he's just out of the road, so he understands the game. It's the little technical deficiencies that he has that worry me for a lifelong boxer like Tommy Fury, because he won't have those technical deficiencies. But does he understand the game of boxing the way Jake does, when Jake's been putting himself in these fights where people are trying to legit take his head off? Tommy was fighting a lot of guys who weren't, who were there to lose, who'd lost fucking 10 fights without a win. Jake has very good big fight experience and main event pressure, and I do think that will benefit him a lot in this fight if he is going to win it. There was a lot of this in this fight, a lot of holding. It wasn't pretty, but that's the way Jake needs it. The prettier this fight is, the better it is for Tommy Fury, because Tommy's the one who wants to show the silky skills of boxing. Jake wants this to be a fight. Yeah, see, this is a really good example of Jake's jab issue here. I mean, he's facing in this direction, Anderson's circling away, so Anderson's right on the edge. It kind of touches him, but it doesn't. You're not doing anything with that because he hasn't found his range properly. His footwork is all off. His balance is completely off. It's not commanding. You're not traveling your feet forward with it to really impact the guy and connect properly. He's leaning forward, other hand down, and Anderson Silva's an older guy. He ain't got the speed these days to really punish people for that, but Tommy Fury should have. So this is something where, yeah, that's a concern. But it's all about that big right hand, and he landed it there. To be fair, we got to give credit to Anderson Silva. He took some fucking bangs in this fight and kept going. Anderson has been fighting for fucking 20 odd 30 years. People know him for the flashy skills, but this man was fighting against 4-ounce gloves regularly, and people underestimate what a great chin Anderson Silva has. He is hard as nails. Has Tommy got a chin like that? We have no idea, and I don't even think we'll find that out from looking at his footage, because he just hasn't been in there with people like this. You see Jake here, he makes this a dogfight. He gets right up close, turns into a scrap, and he wants it more than you, and he's willing to fucking trade in the pocket and cover up and tuck his chin down and see who wants it more. And with the right hand that he's got, that's been enough for him to get to the level of fighting an Anderson Silva and winning. It's amazing that he's even done that. But against technical boxers, they'll punish you too often for all of his technical mistakes, and that's where he'll fall short. Now, the trouble is Tommy that good? And the problem I've got is Tommy's been fighting bums, so of course he looks good against them. And this is the thing about Jake, is when the going gets tough, Jake responds. And he drops Anderson Silva with a great combination there. And, you know, for all I've given him some technical criticism, the will, the desire is there in fucking spades. And also, he's fighting a southpaw who's got 30 fucking years of fighting experience, who's got a lot of tricks and is going to be difficult. So those technical issues that Jake has had in landing the jab, it's an awkward fight for anyone. Let's go to the Woodley 2 fight. I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep picking this up. This jab, the way he sort of moves his whole body forward, it's it's not like a snap. Like a jab should be like a fucking whip. I don't know if they've drilled that enough, but it's just a pet peeve of mine, is if you're going to be a boxer, the jab. Like that should be number one. Let's see what he's like in round 3. Because first couple of rounds, feeling out, yada, yada, yada. Got caught right on the chin there. Fuck me. That means Jake was in trouble here a little bit, because when Jake fires with that level of power, it's out of, okay, I need to give you a reason to get the fuck away here. Woodley legit had Jake in a bit of bother here. I didn't really remember it that bad. And not that Jake was close to going out by any means, but it was not a good spot to be in. Jake's definitely got a chin on him. That's one thing I will see. You can see here in his face, he's completely there. He's taken some big shots, and Woodley has power. I know Woodley ain't a great boxer, but the man has power. Double jab, low to the body. He should do more combinations like that, because he really has success in those. I mean, that's how he dropped Silva. I like those combinations for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes his footwork, being a young learner, it's all the fuck. And when downstairs is wrong, upstairs sometimes is a bit off. I think that's something that he can do with Tommy to assert some dominance and push Tommy back a little bit. And I'd actually like to see Jake be a bit more on the front foot. Like, he fights with respect for his opponents, but I think given his skill set, not having the best jab, and being more of a power guy, him pressuring and trying to back you up and push you into the corner, into the ropes, could be a good way to go for him.
Both of them have just landed 4 punches each with 40 seconds left in the fourth.
Okay, so that's an interesting point from commentary here. Woodley and Paul had only landed like 4 punches each in the 4th round. And if there is one thing I would worry about, is Jake Paul's output. If you're going in there with a more skilled guy, you're going to have to outwork him. You're going to have to even the odds in terms of your output to overcome him. Yeah, that's just bad news if you're a Jake Paul fan, in my opinion. I think his output, he is going to have to change that in this fight. When you watch the Anderson Silva fight and the Woodley fight, it doesn't look like that's likely. You know, the output was fairly low. So unless Jake has been putting in a lot of work to build himself towards that game plan, it looks like it's going to be more them trying to land the one big shot rather than outworking Tommy. And I don't think that's the way to go. I can only hope for Jake that he's aware of it and been grinding away to, you know, push Tommy around and maul him. That's got to be the strategy for me. And that's always a possibility with Jake Paul. He can do that. He can put you to sleep with one punch. We haven't seen anything like that from Tommy Fury yet. And that is a massive, massive bonus if you're wanting Jake Paul to win this fight. That doesn't mean Tommy can't, but the reality is Jake's done this multiple times where he's slept guys. Okay, the first fight I'm going to watch for Tommy is this one against Jordan Grant, because this guy was game. He brought it and looked all right. You see with Tommy, he's constantly looking to feint. The Fury blood runs in him. That's a tale of the Fury tape for sure. As they love throwing feints, and for all he's not Tyson Fury, he's been brought up in that family, and they are taught how to box. It ain't, winging it and fucking throwing haymakers. They are taught how to box properly, and I do respect them for that. Mind you, that is an interesting opportunity that opened up. Jordan Grant in the first round here, and he's just applying pressure. It isn't necessarily majorly calculated, but Fury's fucking chin is wide open here. He throws that feint, gets a bite, but Jordan Grant doesn't pay too much attention and keeps coming forward, and the opportunity is there, and you'll see that chin is wide open against the ropes. And Jake Paul should be looking at this and going, that's how you fucking land the right hand. Don't give him time. Don't give him space. Get on him. And that's why I worry about Jake Paul's output when in the last fight we're seeing not enough happening in a round. To beat a Tommy convincingly, there's a real blueprint there, in my opinion, is to just get into him. The more you let him keep him at that nice boxing range where he can get that jab off, he's just going to do that all day. Nice jab. That jab is so much better than Jake Paul's. His straight punches in general are way better than Jake Paul's. If Jake Paul's coaches aren't addressing that and figuring out a way around that, then they're in for a big problem. To be honest, I think Tommy's feet are good as well. He's quick on his feet for a big lad who carries a lot of muscle, but not quick enough there. That's actually a bit of an MMA style. You're moving forward and you're throwing as you're moving. It's not conventional boxing from Jordan Grant here, but it worked. And that's the sort of shit Jake Paul needs to do. Fight him. Don't play the boxing rules. That you aren't going to beat Tommy by doing boxing shit. He's been doing that since he was a child. You have to think outside of the lines here. And that was a good strike. I'm thinking as well with that muscle that Tommy carries, obviously it's explosive boxing muscle. Jake's got a lot more that American wrestling build. And if he does clinch a lot early on and just drain those arms and those shoulders a bit like what people try and do to Conor McGregor in the MMA game, because he's dangerous in the first 2 rounds, it might just buy you a couple of rounds of wearing him down, and then you start grinding on him. That sounded a bit off. You start getting up close to him and turning it more into a fight. I think that could be worth thinking about for Jake Paul. Ooh. See, Fury here looks good, right? In his strength is also his weakness is right behind it. He throws a nice jab, nice 1-2, pivots well, and he sort of switches off. This is another glaring opportunity where he's against the ropes and the other lad just doesn't put it on him quite enough, but he's there to be hit. He really is. And I think backing Tommy up against the ropes has got to be a huge part of the game plan to beat him. Because if you're in the middle and he's got that space to hit those straight shots, circle out, keep you at distance and pick you off, he'll do that all fucking day. You can't allow that. The problem is can he get to him, put the pressure on and nail him, when I'm looking at Tommy's footwork and thinking probably a bit better. I'm looking at his ability to land the jab to keep Jake Paul at bay and thinking that will be better than anything Jake Paul's been in the ring with, including Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva was not throwing that kind of jab. He just wasn't. As much as I love Anderson and he's a legend, he just wasn't. You're going to have to be willing to eat some shots and get up close and maul this fucker. See, there's that right hand landing again, though. If you're a Tommy Fury fan, the amount he gets hit with a big right hand, and Jake Paul's best weapon being his right hand, alarm bells for him as well, to be honest, because it's right there. He's not thinking about it at all. As much as Tommy's the more experienced professional, the weaknesses are also there. And it's almost like what Jake doesn't do well with straight punches and footwork, Tommy does really well. But what Tommy doesn't do so well in managing the fight sometimes, in dogging it out, you could say, when it gets tough, he doesn't see him at home in there. He likes to be in the center of the ring. That's where Jake's at his best, and that big right hand of Jake's is Tommy's biggest weakness by the looks of it, because that's what he gets caught with a lot. So for me to predict this fight is really difficult because they both do well what the other doesn't do so well. Jake for me hits harder. Jake, and there's X factors in this as well of big fight experience is all with Jake. Pressure, experience is all with Jake. So this was a 4-rounder. I just want to look at the pace that this is being fought at in the 4th round and then compare that to the pace of Woodley and Jake. As we're saying, the 4th round here, when you back Fury up, he had no defense up there. I mean, technically, going forward, he's good, don't get me wrong. But when you put him on his back foot, push him against the ropes, this sort of shit is there. Fuck me. I'm getting more confused. Because when I look at him, my boxing brain here looks at footwork and a jab and thinks that's how you win fights. Yeah, that's the bread and butter. But his weaknesses are so glaring and they're so tailor-made to Jake Paul. If Jake Paul wants to employ that game plan, I could easily see a Tommy Fury outpointing Jake Paul and just being on his bike, popping the jab for the 8 rounds. But at some point, Tommy is going to slow down, and at some point, Jake Paul is going to get there, you'd think. It's just whether or not Jake Paul has the gas tank, the output, and the game plan to force that issue. If Jake Paul hits you like that, though, you're probably going to sleep. This was the guy who Tommy fought on the undercard for Tyson Fury, and I mean, the lad was terrible. He had a 10-0 record, but when you looked at his 10-0 record, you realised it was just full of taxi drivers, as Jake Paul calls them.
Setting up the attacks again with that double jab.
It's the back foot. It's how Tyson Fury realised he had to beat Deontay Wilder. You have to push him backwards because he's so comfortable in going forwards, but backwards is a completely different fighter. And that's exactly the key to beating Tommy Fury. This is an interesting moment in this fight because Tommy takes a big shot here, the right hand again. Bang. Okay, thinking out loud. I've got to make a fucking decision here. Tommy Fury is more skillful, has better balance, better footwork, better straight punches, speed. I mean, and a lifetime of being brought up in the world of boxing by a family that just so happened to produce the heavyweight champion of the world. He should win it quite comfortably. It should be him on the jab, moving around Jake Paul, and whenever Jake Paul gets close enough to land that right hand, he should back off, circle out, keep on the jab, and just pick Jake apart. That's what he should be doing here. But I give Jake a chance. Because of things like determination. He's got bags of it. He's got a lot of high pressure experience of being in main events against fighters who he never thought he would share the ring with, and then beating them and sleeping them in certain times, you know, like the guy has one punch knockout power, and that can't be taught. Tommy doesn't look like he has that. Tommy has okay power, don't get me wrong, but the point is Jake Paul has God-given power, better than Tommy has. And with a game plan, like I've talked about, he may be able to get the job done. But if you're asking me who would I bet on, I'd bet on a Tommy Fury decision. That's what I would bet on. But I'd probably put a little bit of money on a Jake Paul knockout. Do you know what I mean? Like, because just for the crack. And I think I want Jake Paul to win this fight, to be honest. I like him as a guy. I've met him plenty of times, and I think that this whole Jake Paul experience is fun. Whereas with Tommy, for a guy who claims that he wants to have a career in boxing, I actually think Jake Paul's shown more determination and more desire to get to the top in boxing than Tommy has. Tommy's not fighting anywhere near enough. He hasn't put his foot down anywhere near as much as he could have done in being in a dynasty of boxing like he has. So this shouldn't be a close fight, but it probably will be closer than it should be because of what Jake Paul is bringing to the table. And a lot of what Tommy Fury has is by being born into it. Jake's really had to work hard, and I give him a bit more credit in that sense to get where he's gotten to make this a competitive fight. So official prediction, I really can't imagine Jake pulling this off. I really can. It's not that I don't think he can, but if we're talking about like what's more likely, it's a Tommy Fury decision. Okay, I really didn't I said that through gritted teeth. I'm still having flashbacks of Big Tyson calling me a fucking twat. I'll be rooting for Jake Paul, make no mistake about it. I just see a lot of things in the favor of Tommy. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I think both men have a clear road to victory, and both are very possible, but one a bit more possible than the other. Let us know what you think. Thanks for watching. As always, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, do the bell for the notifications and all of that. And yeah, cheers. I'll see you on the next one.